Locho sampo pagyo trashi pa uche tempe trinle yarngoda pege drolor zampe tse parache palden lame shabla solvate Om Guru Vajra Dara Suma Timo Nisha Sane Karma Uta Vardanya Shri Bhadra Varsa Manya Sarva Siddhi Hum Om Guru Vajra Dara Suma Timo Nisha Sane Karma Uta Vardanya Shri Bhadra Varsa Manya Sarva Siddhi Hum Om Guru Vajra Dara Suma Timo Nisha Sane Karma Uta Vardanya Shri Bhadra Varsa Manya Sarva Siddhi Hum Om Guru Suma Timo Nisha Sane Karma Uta Vardanya Shri Bhadra Varsa Manya Sarva Siddhi Dagi Jetsun Lama Tuje Je Nyamda Dala Tuje Siksu So Gebe Shesan Dala Tendo So Uyon Sunge Nawa Tsedo So Teje Ningne Sowa Debe Tse Dechen Korlo Vesu Lekshun Yela Sambe Dede Malupa Geme Lungi Rubra Jingelo Tony Sodan Dikdun Shabe Tse Dunge Namge Yinsu Lekshun Labchen Tsoni Yonsu Zobadan Chera Nyedun Changra Jingel Chancho Parge Ninsen Tugun Tu Nyu Peme Siru Lekshun Chancho Drube Gegen Kunshi Shi Tungen Dela Drubra Jingel Dagi Lona Chela Chobadan Chemi Samchur Ngemba Shiwat Chedan Tumbe Dede Maluba Beme Lungi Drubra Jingel Dorna Tingne Tsera Tamchedan Techi Pardu Negav Tamchet Rese Kyamne Lama Kele Me Tuche Chingi Dala Siksus Gongkyab Drewe Nyamda Da Chala Chetsun Lame Tuche Rabgon Kudan Sungi Nawa Drame Tu Nyamsu Nyongwe Kesan Tobrash Kiwa Kundu Yanda Lama Dan Drame Cheki Pela Longchech Sadan Lamgi Yunde Rabzon Dorje Changi Koba Nyur Tobo Sho Pakyuki Kudan Dagi Lo Pakyuki Sundan Dagi Nga Pakyuki Tudan Dagi Ye Ten Yerme Chikdu Jingil Makyuki Kudan Lo Makyuki Sundan Dagi Makyuki Tudan Dagi Ye Ten Yerme Chikdu Jingil Om Mahamuni Shakyamuni Swaha Om Muni Mahamuni Shakyamuni Swaha Om Muni Mahamuni Shakyamuni Swaha. Cominciamo con la Guru Puja. We start with the Guru Puja. Chengale Rani Lama Lhaya Kande Selve Kuleve Serzo Cho Chur Trepe Ne Chu Chin Lape Taparam Jamba Shi Yun Tengi Köpe Keba Pun Sum Tso Par Kyur Rab Kar Gesen Chembong Anile Dadan Kanya Magen Sem Chenam Tene Jisi Chanchu Nimbo Par Lama Kuncho Sumla Kyab Sudru Namo Guru Obye Namo Buddhaya Namo Dharmaya Namo Sanghaya Namo Guru Bien Namo Buddhaya Namo Dharmaya Namo Sanghaya Namo Guru Bien Namo Buddhaya Namo Dharmaya Namo Sanghaya Masem Chen Kungi Tengi Chir Dani Lama Largyurne Sem Chen Tam Che Lama Lai Köpan Chola Köparcha Mas Kungi Tengi Chir Dani Lama Largyurne Sem Chen Tam Che Lama Lai Köpan Chola Köparcha Ma Sem Chen Kungi Tengi Chir Dani Lama Largyurne Sem Chen Tam Che Lama Lai Köpan Chola Köparcha Ma Sem Chen Tam Che Ge Tundu Dagi Tsedi Nila Nyurwa Nyurwa Deme Sang Lama Lai Koba Ngundu Che Ma Sem Chen Tam Che Dunga Ledre Deche Sangye Gi Sala Köpracha Te Chirtu Lamsa Mo Lama Lai Nel Churanyam Su Langwar Ki Om Ahum Om Ahum Om Ahum Ngo Yeshe La Nambra Namche Danche Tse Sasa Nambra Chele Wambo Druge Che Yudu De Dong Yeshe Gebra Jengebe Sadan Pana Nange Kyontam Che Yonsok China Sangwe Choten Tamse Chense Samge Mikya Pe Kanwara Kyu De Ton Yerme Lal Han Yam Pra Kun San Choten Tripe Wulo Ma Met Trebu Yunze Dogu Pasam Chumpet Donga Barwe Rinchen Triten Chuke Nida Gepeten Kadrin Sumde Sawe Lama Sangye Kungi Ngowon Nampa Ngurme Zimpe Gelon Sheche Chani Tsumkardro Chaye Cheche Yompa Nyamsha Dutsi Kangwe Longse Nam Kurkundamde Chogu Sumso Serdo Penshe Ulaze tu kar kyabda dorje chang, she chi cha ni tsu. Dorje sune yin chu ma kyu, len ke de ton ro pe ke, nama rin che gengi tre shin, la ze da gi na ze, sempe gen de we ser tong pa, cha tse na nge korwe we dorje kil tru, sul gi shuk pe, Kungbo namda deshe nga kamshi yumshi keje tsagyu tsinan chanchu sempang pabu drachum nitri chikdong yen la trowo wangbo ni we ser che gyonu jinsang jikden pana shabgide takob rimshi ngogyu lama Idam king koral hatso da sangye chans Pawo kandro tesung gyatso kornesh De targo sum dorje sumse Hungi ve ser chagyo Ranshin ene yeshe pana Chenra yerme tempa arakyo Punso le chune tu sumgi, sagyu la ma yedang kun cho sum, pa wo kan ro cho gyon sum so che, tu che wangi dir she tem par shu, che na ran shin ro kun re yang, Na tso du che sampa chi shin tu, chi rian char we ken tse chin le chen, kyab kun tam pa kor che shek su su. Omo guru Buddha Bodhisattva Dharma Pala Sapariware Ehya Hi Za Hum Bam Yeshe Pana Tamtsi Pada Nisu Me Par Kyu. Kange tuje dewa chenpo ye kusung goban chegyan kechi la tsoze lama rinchen tabu ku dorje chensha pema chatse lo rabchan gyalwa kunge yeshe ni kandu chiryan charwe tabke cho ngurme zimbe kargi nero wa kyabgun tambe shabla chatse lo nyekun pacha cheba chujun shin pame yunde rinchen tsogi ter Pende malu jungwe gochi pu jetsun lame shabla chatsel harche tenpa sangye kungi ngo geti shidon tamcho jungwen patsu kungi una langye wa tinchen lama namla chatselo tusum chochuru shupe lama dan rinchen chosum chawe tamchela techi mebe tunyang gyatso che Shindu nyambe ludru cha tse lo. Kyabgun chetsun lama korche la natso chetin gyatso bilwani. Kule rinche weba nuyan le dache dutse chushi degi ba. Dombo sima tenwa pele pa tsebe medo sadam parnanka. Tishin pegi duba bindur ye yarke ngombo trigi lalantri. Nida norbu rabkara tome tso tonsum muse vese tsegako Gabo tsenden kurgun trigope pechun sochen koryo kuneke Roge chuden sacha tonga dan lhada mi shase lompopo Natso romo chedran tanyele chungwe danye gyungwe sasongwe Sudra tiro rekche pelzinpe Chinan dunyo lhamo chukun kyam Sashipeki Choshiameto Tare Ravling Shi Nide Gempadi Sange Shinto Mikte ulvarki drokun da shin la che par sho che wa ta ge lin she lum pro che rinchen dunda nyewe rinchen so kunga kebe ne chu pyun son so lami long cho de gu ter chen dawe simgi pulchun shinge cho kyab kon to che chen la ulwar gi ye dam guru ratna mandra kam nirya ta ya mi ngo shan yi zho yi shin gya tso ngo si shi nam kra le o chen zengi dato gebe kungi yi zho shin chikden chikden le de ran shengi go song gewe me do chi an tra kun san chebe tri so bum rosh lap so rim nye lang e drende pe ka tsen che tsu lama nye chi kur kon dam de sambu ting e chen ro ge pe zing ge chet Chandun barwe duzi gyatso chur. Iwon la tso palzin tru chung shin. Debe gyutse lage ludrama. Shinge ngage lhenge ponye tso. Tsedu gyume chagya nangya bul. Timde lhenge dewe yeshe che. Chugu ranshin tondan rewe. Yerme lunro masam jole de. Tundan chanchu semcho kyola bul. Nyomo shigya tsashi nel chorpe sambo mingi cheta na tsoda kyone gichir da rembula na namkara chesim baso sondo so ome dune mige dikpele gidan gitse iran chichi pa uje chenren chengara gyosemgi shakshin lenche mige dongban Chona ranshin tsema danre yang milam jishin keba tamcheki Dega chirya charwe namkara la dacha samba taupe irang Pulchun kinse chunzin bumre te taye drodi pende kunde tse Keda yundu nedan pewe chira sabge chugi charba avtuso Dorje kula keji minga yang sunchu wangi gyab Dacha meba jishin site bara nyange mida tabra shusu so. Dedara trumbe namkara gewe tso kadrin sumden chetsun lama. Sera kundu drame chetsin chin sunchu dorche changwa top chirang. Yunden chungne tsurin gyatso che mondo norbu tsoki yonsu tam. Murmi zimba tongwa nipe che neden duwa zingla sowa de. Kandan dena devara shekpe lam tembra webe yunden chuden pa malu gyalwe duzon chogi je tekcho gewe shela sowat gosum ledam loche sodendra yodan gyume ngadan gyusheshi teni chusun ridan chekepe dorje zimbe tsola sowat sangye drangme jumbe matulwe maron duke niktu drowala Deshe lamsa chishin tenpa ye kyabkon tuje chen la sowad Nima tuge nubgyurute gongya mebe drowa mambo la Gyawe dzeba nyewara druze pe kyabkon tuje chen la sowad Chochu tamche la kanki babu buga chiza ya Dacha sanam shindu lenga pe kyabkon tuje chen la sowad Kusung genge korlo ni tabge gyuru drawe choge le tame tsugi drowa drense pe kyabkon tuje chenla sowa de punga keche yan la nam deshe ringa yabyon semba dan chowe wambo ranshin chosum ge dani lama chola sowa de kunge yeshe reba le chungwe kilkor korlo jewe dani te Rige kyabda dorje zimbe tso sungchu tambo gun la sowa de Chime lenge gawe roba da yerme tenyo kungya kungi da Toma tadre kunsan tundamgi chanchu semgo kyo la sowa de Kyuni lama kyuni yidam kyuni kanro che gyonde Tene son te chanchu bardo Kyomin kyab shemi tsolwe Didam pardo Chime taryam toje chagyu sung sola se shi ji chul ngo zhu kun so tengi chul zo pa chu sung kyo ni lama kyo ni yidam kyo ni kandro chu gyong te tene sun te chancho bardo kyo mi kyab she mi tsolwe di dan pardo chi me tari tu je cha gyu sun tsola si shi jik chol ngo drub kun sol tengi chol tso pa cho sung kyo ni lama kyo ni yidam kyo ni kandro che gyong te tene sun te chanchu pardo kyo mi kyab she mi tsolwe di dan pardo chi me taryang tu je cha gyu sung sola si shi jik kun so tengi chol so pa cho sung kyo ni lama kyo ni yidam kyo ni kandro che gyon te tene son te chanchu pardo kyo mi kyab she mi tsolwe di dan pardo chi me taryang tu je cha gyu song sola si shi ji chol ngo drub kun so tengi chol zo pa cho sum Darlen son sol wa ta pe tu la me ku son to gi ne nam le du tsi ve ser karmar tin ka sum rim dan chik char chung ne da ni gi ne son rim dan chik char tim pa le Drip shi tak ching nam da wang shi top ku shi top ching lama ni ba shik ge shin timpe jingi la para gyu. Verse 84, verso 84. Shincho tamba che tsun lama la che chin kube sowa tabe tu dele tsawa gombo kyunyi gi geshin che sun zimbra jingi lo lenche tsamshi nyebe del churadi nyega nyurdu chikbe tsuto ne tome tsedi chanwe miye war tende nimbo lembra jingi lo Nge son dunge barwe mejik ne nyingne kuncho sumla kyamdro shi. Dikpo nge son tada druba la tsumba lulen chebra jingi lo. Leda nyamon balon trautu tru dunge sumge chuse mangbo tse. Tame jiro sitso chimbo le tardo shudra kyawra jingi lo. Soga tsura drawe korwa di gawe tsildara tongwe lobang ne. Lapson pabe norge zoson de tarpe gensen zimbra nyamdad Suzamne dube pula tsewe mashin tu chemi ninche kyora jingilo Dunga tramo tsamya midyo chin de la namya chokshe mebrani Dadan shenla kebra yumi she shende gawa kebra jingilo Zimbe chungne di midyo dunga gebe gyurdone Lelen de la kondo sunche de dazin dunjen chumbra jingelo Manan cheson de la gobe lo taye yunten chungwe gordone. Sole chebra zimbra jinge lo. Kenda yunten yewa tobe lo dashe nyamche nubra jinge lo. Kuba kunge go mana chezi yunten kunge shi. Hechira dashen chewe ne jola nyamle nyimbu chebra jinge lo. Chetsun lama tuje che magyu drove dirib dunga kun. Malu tada dala mimba dan dagi dege shenla tawai. Drogun deda dembra jinge lo. Tena chetsun lama tuje che magyu drove dirib dunga kun. Malu tada dala mimba dan dagi dege shenla tawai. Deda dembra jinge lo, tena chetsun lama tuje che, magyu drove dirib dunga. Dala mimba da, dagi dege shenla tawai. Drogun deda dembra jinge lo, nechu digbe drebu yonkante, midu dunga chadara bab gyuro kyang. Lenge drebu sebe gyurtone, kenge lamdu longra jinge lo. Dona sange nawa chisharayan, chogu nimbo tomge nyamling. Chancho semni pewe lamgyurute, yide bashi gombra jingelo. Chorwa shidan dembe tapkegi, trela kanto gomla chorwa da. Locho tamtse lapche nyamlingi, delchoro tunchen chombra jingi. Kyumbe trumden che, chamda ninche lape sambayi. Drona sitso chile drove chire chancho semni jomra jingelo. Tusung gyawa kungi droche lam namda gyase domba gyudamshi. Tekcho tsutrin sumge nyamle la tsomba lulen chebra jingelo. Loncho tusum getso che semche raran debe ngogyurote. Chame tunsen pewe mengagi jimbe parchin zobra jingelo. Se sanga domba yi che zang soge chirya midunchi. Semchen tundru pe tsudrin parchin zobra jingelo. Alu chogyuru te sheshin tsandru dikshin sokcho kyang. Midru norlen pemba druje pe sebe parchin zobra jingelo. Semche rere chirya narme pe. Menan keba gyatsu negwe kyang. Ninje migyo janjo chotzon pe tsundru parchin sobra jingelo. Nambara yongwe kyomba ne choku dembe tombe ne lola. Sechi nyambra chobe tinzingi samden parchin sobra jingelo. Sosoro tope sherab ki trambe shinchan de chen dandrewa. Tenda nyamsha namge ne jogi shera parchin sobra jingelo. Gyuma milan dan dambe tsonan daso jishintu. Nayan dembra mebe tsuto ne gyume tinzin sobra jingelo. Korde ranshin dutsa meba dan gyure tendre luwa mebani. Pensu game troksu charwayi ludru gondon dobra jingelo. Tepengi chinle gyude gyatso jigete. Ngodru tsawa tamze domba na sole chebra zimbra jingelo. Gyalwe kusuntu, gyurwe rimba tambo nechoki. Tame nashin trima kunchante, kanal haku charwa jingelo. Ninge dabke duti vidautu, gongyo koba lechungwa. Wese gyulu sundu chobe lan, tsedi ngundu gyurwa jingelo. Masin chiwe tuje na tsenda tsangya lame powani. Tomga yandan jarwe damga ki tabe shindu drobra jingelo. Dona keshin kewa tamche tu gombo kyogi dralme jesone. Kuson toge sangwa kunzimpe. Segi tuwar gyurwa jingelo. Gongyo kandu ngombra sangye pe korgi toma nitu ta gyurte. Nekav tartu gundu malup. Beme lungi drupe trashitso. Sangye chedan soge chanam la chancho pardo dani kyapso chi dagi chishe give sonam gi drola pinchira sangye druparesho Sangye chedan soge chanam la chancho pardo dani kyapso chi dagi chishe give sonam gi Drola penchira sangye druparesho Sangye chedan soge chonamla Jancho bardo danik Dagi chushe gibe sonamgi Drola penchira sangye druparesho In the Buddha, Dharma and Sangha, I take refuge until enlightenment. Through the practice of generosity and the other perfections, may I attain Buddhahood for the benefit of all sentient beings. So, today we are going to continue, as yesterday Lama Ganchen gave teachings and transmissions of the Heart Sutra, and also the transmission of the initiation of Prajna Paramita, the mother of great wisdom, so of the perfection of wisdom. So, first of all, what's the meaning of Heart Sutra? I was before looking at the name and was just remembering that actually when we talk about Heart Sutra, it's the translation from Tibetan of Sheragiparutu Chimpe Nyingpo or Sherab Nyingpo. Nyingpo in Tibetan means essence. Essence, which can know the word Nying literally is also heart. But it's also essence, depending in which context you put the word. So when we talk about the name of the sutra, actually, if we make a more literal translation, it will be the essence of the perfection of wisdom. Sherab means wisdom. Nyingpo means essence, the essence of wisdom, which the longer name is Sherab gi parul tu chimpe nyingpo. Parul to chin means to go. Parul means beyond. So it's the wisdom, it's the essence of the wisdom that goes beyond. And here we can translate it in two ways. The essence of the wisdom that has gone beyond, which is a Buddha, and the essence of the wisdom that is going beyond, that takes you beyond, which is referring to the wisdom during the path. Okay? In the English translation, we have the translation of the long title, which is the heart, or we could translate also as the essence of far-reaching. Far-reaching means that goes beyond our common way of seeing things, that goes beyond our mundane way of samsara. Okay? That goes beyond suffering. The heart of far-reaching, discriminating awareness, which is the way how it's translated wisdom. Okay? The vanquishing lady surpassing all. So this is the complete Sheragiparotu Chimpe Nyingpo's Yum Chemo Sheragiparotu Chimpe Nyingpo. Yeah. Actually the complete title is Yum Chemo, the Great Mother. The perfection of wisdom that is gone beyond. That we could also translate in that way. I don't have the intention today to go into details on the explanation of the Heart Sutra, which actually is very beautiful to do. It takes few days. We go word by word, what's the meaning of each word by word. And it's very profound and very complex. It's not something that we can do in few hours. But just on the title, when we say, here the translation say, the vanquishing lady surpassing your Yum Chemo. Yum Chemo Sheragi Parutu Chimpe Nyingpo, because it's also called the Great Mother. Why? Because first of all, when we talk about, it says that the perfection of wisdom is also the mother of all Buddhas. Why? Because all Buddhas They are born from wisdom. In order for anyone to reach enlightenment, they must realize the perfection of wisdom. So what's the main thing that depends in order for anyone to get out of the cycle of suffering and to reach enlightenment? Is wisdom, the main part. That's why it's also called the mother. Also, in the other way, wisdom, it's directly related to female energy. The female is representing wisdom, because wisdom is not something rational, but it's something very much deeper, much more intuitive. Okay? So in this sense, we're talking about wisdom as also being female energy. This doesn't mean men cannot have wisdom. It's not that the point, but it's just it's represented by the female aspect when we talk about wisdom. So it's called the Great Mother. Wisdom is called the Great Mother. When we talk about the Great Mother of Wisdom, we are not talking about some deity or some goddess that is the mother of all Buddhas. We are talking about actually the realization of wisdom itself. Okay? So that is the mother of all Buddhas. All Buddhas are coming from that wisdom. That's what's giving birth to all the Buddhas. And actually the Heart Sutra explains very clearly this whole process of birth, actually. It's showing the whole 5 paths to enlightenment and how it depends on the perfection of wisdom. So, it's the wisdom that goes beyond or that takes us beyond, or the far-reaching wisdom, which means para to jimpa. Para means beyond. Chimpa means to go or to have gone. Okay? So it means the title can be read in the way representing or the wisdom of a Buddha or the wisdom of those that are on the path to reach enlightenment. On the same time, the word going far-reaching or going beyond, it's also very often translated as perfection. So when we say the perfection of wisdom, it has 2 ways of translating it also. One way is the perfection in the sense that the wisdom that has already reached its perfection, it has gone beyond its limits, or the wisdom that is in the process of becoming perfect, perfecting wisdom. So this is the wisdom during the path. Okay? So the title is showing both. So the title is actually showing what is the sutra going to talk about. The whole meaning is actually within the title. So here in this sutra, I'm going to give you the essence of the wisdom that takes you beyond the state of suffering, or the wisdom that has gone beyond also the wisdom of a Buddha, which is actually the same thing, but in a different moment. So the way of seeing reality and so on, okay? So, also it's called here the heart or the essence of such perfection of wisdom, because Buddha gave these teachings in many different ways. And normally we have what we call Geditusum, which is the long, the medium, and the short version of the Perfection of Wisdom Sutra. And this is not even the short version. This is the essence of the Perfection of Wisdom Sutra. Okay, the long version, if I'm not wrong, has 100,000 verses. The medium version has something like around 20,000 verses. I'm not exactly sure about that number. I don't have a good memory with numbers, so I think it has around 20,000 verses. The short version, I'm sure, it has 8,000 verses. Sometimes, there was here, Dr. Wanchuk was sitting behind there reading a text. He was reading the short version of 8,000 verses of the Perfection of Wisdom Sutra. And then it's called Getompa in Tibetan. And then there is the essence of the Perfection of Wisdom Sutra, that is the Heart Sutra, which has very few verses. And then there is the very, 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 very essence of the Heart Sutra, which is said that Buddha taught with only an ah. Nothing more than an ah. Then when we study these things in the monastery and we do debating, then we go, but then tell me, if this is the essence of the essence, the shortest way Buddha have ever taught the Perfection of Wisdom Sutra, how can he actually transmit the perfection of wisdom, the correct view of reality, only through an ah? How can you understand that? Blah, blah. So there is a long debating on that. We are not going to go on that right now, okay? We stay in the essence of the Heart Sutra, how we know it here. And still, as I said before, we are not going to go into very many details about the Heart Sutra, basically because we don't have much time for that. I really like very much this text, and the meaning and everything is so beautiful. But I just want to recite together the text a little bit and give us and share with you together the main meaning. We would not go deep into every word, but let's try to grab the meaning of the sutra. Okay? So, there was a question which says, why is the Heart Sutra so well known? Why is the Heart Sutra so... Prego. No. Jo means to say. Masam, je me. Je means speaking. Okay. So, when we talk about the essence, or when we talk about the Heart Sutra, the reason why the Heart Sutra is so well known, it's for many reasons. Okay. First of all, it's because many great masters of all these centuries have always given a great importance to the Heart Sutra. The main reason, according to me, is because the Heart Sutra is talking about, is guiding us, is teaching us through the process of developing wisdom, which is the essence of our path also. It's the most important part of our path is actually developing wisdom. It's really, in the Bodhisattva Charyavatara, it says, from Shantideva, he says, in the beginning of the 9th chapter, he says, all these branches, which means patience, morality, conscientiousness, concentration, developing love and compassion, and all of this has been taught in order to support the development of wisdom. So finally, what we need to develop is wisdom, is the correct view of reality. Not only in a conceptual level, but in a much deeper level. Okay? So, this is really the most important part for us, like during the whole path, in all the teachings of Buddha, the essence, finally, where we need to go, we need to develop wisdom. Why? Because if we do not eliminate our ignorance, if we do not develop true wisdom, we will still be trapped in suffering. There is no way of getting out of suffering without developing true wisdom. So, this is one of the reasons why the Heart Sutra is so well known, so important. On the other way, nowadays we have all the teachings on the correct view of reality in a very accessible and quite in very clear way, given to us by Lama Tsongkhapa. And later explained also the teachings of Lama Tsongkhapa by many lamas and teachers and so on. But basically we have Lama Tsongkhapa made very clear to us. Lama Tsongkhapa's teachings were based on basically two texts, okay, which were the teachings given by Chandrakirti and Bhuttapalita. Okay. The teachings of Chandrakirti and Bhuttapalita were commentaries on the text written by Nagarjuna, Sherabtsawa, which means the root of wisdom, which is Nagarjuna wrote different texts commenting, talking about wisdom, but then they were mostly commentaries on the Perfection of Wisdom Sutra. So Nagarjuna commented on the Perfection of Wisdom Sutra, which is the Heart Sutra and mostly the 8,000 verses, which is the short version. But normally when we have these commentaries on the Perfection of Wisdom Sutra, it cites verses from the long, medium, and short version. Okay, so it's seen as a whole. So they commented it also because nowadays, let's say we take the 8,000 verses version of the Perfection of Wisdom Sutra and we give to you to read. Who can really understand and grab the meaning? Very difficult. If you really have very strong imprints from previous lives, then you may be able really to get at it and I will prostrate to you. But otherwise, we read it and we simply don't understand. We don't grab the actual meaning. But we don't even need to talk about the 8,000 verse that is more difficult. Let's take, for instance, the Heart Sutra. Just take apart, for example, whatever, just similarly,
feeling, distinguishing, affecting variables, types of consciousness, voidness. It is like that, Shariputra, with all phenomena, voidness. No defining characteristics, no arising, no stopping, no being stained, no being parted from stain, no being deficient, no being additional. What does it mean? We need a commentary. We need explanation. In the time of Buddha, there was no need of commentary. Because the disciples to whom Buddha transmitted this word, they had this basis to understand all of this, to go to the actual meaning directly. But 2,500 years have passed, and we don't have that basis, culturally, from the base of our own experience, from our merits, and so on. In Tibetan it's called Chetu Chawe Ducha, the disciples to whom specifically that teaching were given. The disciples to whom these teachings were given at the time of Buddha, they didn't need more commentary. These words were exactly what they needed to get a meaning. But for us nowadays, we need something more. Okay? So, that's why very gratefully we had Nagarjuna, Chandrakirti Bhuttapalita, Lama Tsongkhapa, that have cleared us all of this and made it really, when we go to the text of Lama Tsongkhapa, it's so wonderful because it's really going meaning by meaning, word by word, referring to the commentaries, explaining why and how and so on. So nowadays we have access to the sutra through the commentaries. Otherwise it will be just words that we recite, which still are very blessed words, because these words that we will recite now of the Heart Sutra have been recited with the right intention for more than 2,500 years. So are very, very blessed words. So, in this way, it's also very important because it's giving the essence of Buddha's teachings, which is the perfection of wisdom, in a very essential way. Okay? So we can say that it's the Heart Sutra in two senses. In one way, it means because it's the heart, in the sense, the essence of the perfection of wisdom sutra. On the other way, it's the heart of the teachings of Buddha. It's the essence of the teachings of Buddha. In that way also is the heart. We could even give a third meaning when we talk about the heart. It's something that should be realized not conceptually, but through the heart also. We could also go through this type of explanation also, okay? But it's really an incredibly important sutra, and all sutras are very important, but this one has been recited and taught so much because it's talking about really the most important essence of all the teachings, of all the whole path. Okay? And it's a Mahayana sutra, so mostly we will find this sutra in all the Mahayana traditions. So this is a sutra actually, the Theravada do not recognize this sutra. And here there is something I like to add actually. When we have actually what are called the Mahayana Sutras and the Hinayana Sutras or Theravada Sutras. Basically, there is a set of all the teachings of Buddha, which is called the Tripitaka in Pali, we call Kangyur in Tibetan, where it's the collection of all the teachings of Buddha, okay? And there is one set of collections of teachings which normally the Mahayana traditions recognize, and there is a set of teachings that the Theravada tradition, Hinayana tradition recognize. And it's quite often is said, the Mahayana came later. No? Then one day I was in the Mahayana tradition, something that came later. The real original one is the Theravada Hinayana tradition, and so on. One day I was in Thailand in a congress which was organized by Dhammakaya Foundation, and this congress was in one of the auditoriums of the United Nations in Bangkok, and there were two or three, I think there were two archaeologists talking. These two archaeologists, they were specialized in researching Buddhist things, basically. Okay. In the area of Afghanistan and Pakistan and these areas around there. So one of them was talking about Bamyam and so on, and the other one was talking about the oldest Buddhist scriptures that were ever found, the manuscripts, the oldest Buddhist manuscripts that were ever found. So these manuscripts, they were found inside, I think they were inside vases in the desert somewhere in Afghanistan and so on. or in Pakistan now, I don't remember exactly. Anyhow, these oldest manuscripts, they were about the Sutras of Buddha. The oldest versions that were found of the Sutras of Buddha were Mahayana Sutras. There were many parts of the sutras that are the same in the Mahayana and Hinayana Sutras, but there are some parts of the sutras that the Hinayana don't recognize as being teachings of Buddha. But these were found in the oldest versions that up to today were found, which were, they dated like making this, I don't know, this hard carbon copy, whatever, I don't know what's the name of this. Carbon dating, when they check how old is the object and so on. It was like, archaeologically, it would be like 300 years after Buddha passed away. So basically, from that, they were saying, look, the oldest text that we found up to today, they had also parts of the sutras that are Mahayana sutras. So this is just a way to show that the sutras, when we talk about Hinayana Sutra, Mahayana Sutra, I believe that basically it's just in the process of development of the teachings later. Some parts, were recognized in one tradition, other parts recognized in other tradition. Anyhow, the Heart Sutra is very much recited in Japan. All the Zen practitioners recite the Heart Sutra. In all the Mahayana traditions, the Heart Sutra is one of the most important texts that we are actually reciting and meditating upon. Like in the monastery of Sera, when we do the debate session, there is a period where we recite prayers before the debating. And there is one day every, let's say, month and a half, 2 months, 3 months, something like this, that we do the long prayers, which take like 5 hours. And during the long prayers, we do 18 times the Heart Sutra, reciting it quite slowly. And one time, the first time recitation takes like more or less 15 minutes just to recite it once. And then the other times a little bit faster. And during the time of recitation of Heart Sutra, the discipline master is not allowed to stand up. Because the monks are supposed to be meditating, so we are supposed not to have any distraction. No? So, the point is that it's really a text for meditation, for recitation, and it's also a very well-known text to take away interferences. Okay, so it's really so important, but basically because what is giving the transmission that is giving to us. And it's a text that is so blessed by all these centuries of masters and practitioners really meditating upon its meaning, reciting it. So it's really, really very blessed, and it's amazing how today we can receive it. As we received the transmission yesterday and we recite together today here, having an uninterrupted lineage since the time of Buddha. So the way how we recite these words is the way how they have been being recited for 2,500 years. Okay, so this is something really special, and the meaning is really, really very beautiful and very special. So what I'm going to try to do in this very short time we have today is basically to give you the essence of the meaning of the Heart Sutra. So at least we can grab a little bit at the meaning of it, and we recite together. Rinpoche asked me to recite the sutra together, because here we don't have, most of us are not so much used to recite the Heart Sutra, so he saw a little bit difficulty in the recitation of the Heart Sutra, so he requested me to help a little bit with that. Okay. Masam cheme shera paruchi make miga namke ngowoni soso rangre yeshe chöyuma tuson galwe yumla chatselo. Gyagara keto bhagavate Prajna Paramita hridaya Pöketu chumden dema sheraki parotu chimbe nimpo chumden dema sheragi parotu chimbala chatselo. Dike dagi teba tuchi na chumden de gyabo kab chago pumbo rila gelongi gendun chembo dang
Chancho sempe gendun chenpo dang ta chido shu te te tse chumden de samu nawa she chawe chegi namdrangi tinge zinla nyombra shu so yang te tse chancho semba semba chenpo papa cherezi wancho kya sheragi paro tu jimba samo cheba nila nambra tashi pumbo ngabo teda laya ranshingi tomba nambra tao Tene sangye gitu tsedan denpa sharipu chancho sempa sempa chenpo papa cherezi wancho la dike cheme som Rigi puan rigi pumo kan la la sheragi paro tu chimba samu cheba cheba debra te Chidra labra cha Teke che meba dan Chancho semba semba chembo Paba cherezi wancho ki Sedan demba shara tati pula dike che me so Sharipu rigi puan rigi pumo kan la la shiraki Paro tu jimba samo cheba cheba deba te Ditra nambra chawar chate Pumbo ngabo deda kyang Ranshingi tomba nambra yandabra jesu tao So tomba ni so Sole kyan tomba ni shemai Tomba nile kyan so she maino Teshin tu tsorwa dan duche dan Nambra sheba na tomba o Sharipu teta we na che tamche tomba nite Tseni meba ma keba ma gagba trima meba Trima dan tralwa triwa meba kangwa meba om Sharipu teta we na tomba nila So me tsorwa me duche na me Nambra sheba Mik me nawa me na me che me Lu me yi me so me dra me Chi me ro me rekcha me cho me to Migi ka me ba ne yigi ka me Yigi nambra shebe kamge pardo ya me to Marikpa seba me beane Gashe sebe pardo ya me to Teshin tu dunge wadan kuncho wadan Gokpa dan la me yeshe me Toba me ma toba ya me to Sharipu teta we na jancho semba namla toba mebe chir Sheraki paro tu jimba samo dila Tenchi nete semla driba mechin trakpa mete Chinchi lole shinto dene nyange le debe tarchin tom Tu suntu ngombra shobe sangye tamche kyang Sheragi paro tu chimba la ten Lana meba yandabra zobe janchu ngombra zobra sangye so Teta we na sheragi paro tu jimbe nga Rigba chembe nga Lana mebe nga minyam pada nyam pe nga, dunga tamche rabtu shiwara chebe nga, mizum pe na dembra shebra chate, sheragi parotu chimbe nga, me pa taya ta gate gate para gate parasam gate bodhi svoha. Shariputra chancho semba semba chembo namgi tetra sheraki parotu chimba samola labra chao. Tene chomdende tinge zin tele shende chancho semba semba chembo paba cherezi wanjula lekso she chawa chine. Lexo, lexo, rigi pu, te te shino, te te shinte, chitra kyoge temba te shintu, sheragi parotu chimba samola chebra chate, shin sheba namkyan jesu irango, chomden degi dige che ka tsene tsedan demba shara tati pudan chanchu semba semba chembo paba cherezi wanchu dan tam chedan dempe kor teda dan lhada midan lhama yidan trisara chebe jigde irante chomden degi sumbala ngombarato do. Taya ta gate gate para gate para samgate bodhi soha taya ta gate gate para gate para samgate bodhi soha taya ta gate gate para gate para samgate bodhi svoha. Recitiamo un'altra volta. We do another time the Heart Sutra, so we get a little bit more acquainted with it. Masan me shera paru jin make miga namke ngowoni soso ranre yeshe chuyuma tusun gyawe yumla. Gyagar ketu bhagavate prajna paramita hridaya pöke tu chumden dema shye parotu jimbe nimpo chumden dema shiragi parotu jimbala chatselo. Dige dagi teba tuchi na chumdende gyabo kap chago pumbo rila gelongi gendun chenbo dang chanchu sembe gendun chenbo dang tab chidu shute te tse chumdende samu nawa she chawe chogi namrangi Tinge zinla nyombra shu so yan te tse chancho semba semba chenbo paba cherezi wangjo kyang sheragi parotu jimba samo cheba nila nambra tashi
Pumbo ngabo teda layang ran shinge tomba nambra tao tene sangye gitu tsedan demba sharipu chancho semba semba chembo papa cherezi wanjo la dike che meso Rigi pumo kan la la sheragi paro tu jimba sam Cheba chebra deba te jidra labra cha tige che meba dang chancho semba semba chembo papa cherezi wanjo ki sedan demba shara tati pula dike che meso Sharipu rigi pum kan la la sheragi paro tu jimba samu Cheba chebra deba te ditra nambra tawara chate pumbo ngabo teda kyang ran shinge tomba nambra yan dabra jesu ta so tomba o tomba ni so so sule kyang tomba ni shemai tomba ni le kyang so shemai no Teshin tu tsorwa dan, dushe dan, nambra sheba nan tomba o, sharipu teta we na, che tamche tomba nite tseni me, ma keba ma gagba, tima meba, tima dan chalwa, chiwa meba, kanwa meba o, sharipu teta we na, Tomba nila so me, tsorwa me, dushe me, duche na, sheba me, mig me, nawa me, na me, che me, lu me, yi me, so me, dra me, tri me, ro me, rekcha me, cho me, to, Mige kame bane yige nambra shebe kamge pardo yame to marikpa sebane kashe me gashe sebe pardo yame to teshin to dunge wadan kunchun wadan gokpa dan lame yeshe me toba me matoba yame to Sharipu teta we na chancho semba namla toba mebe chir sheragi paru tu jimba samo dil tenchin nete semla driba mechin trakpa mete chinchi lone shindu dene nyange le debe tarchinto tu sundu ngombra shub sangye tamche kyan sheragi paru tu jimba laten Lana mepa yanda pra zope chanchu tu ngombra zopra sangye so te tawe na sheragi paro tu jimbe nga rikpa chembe nga lana mebe nga minyam pada nyam para chebe nga mizumpe namyo dunga tamche rabtu shiura chebe nga Mizum pena dembra shebra chate sheragi paro tu jimbe nga mepa tayata gate parasam gate bodhi soha sharipu chancho semba chembo namgi tedra sheragi paro tu jimba samola labra chao Tene chomdende tinge zin tele shente chancho semba chembo papa cherezi wanjo la lekso shejawa chine lekso rigi pu tete shinte chitra kyogi temba teshinto sheragi parotu jimba samola chebra chate teshin sheba nam Cheso yirango chomden degi dike che ka tsene tsedan demba sharatati puda chancho semba chem baba cherezi wanjo dan tam chedan dembe kor teda
Tada midan lama yidan trisara chebe jikne irante chomden degi sumbala ngombra tu Tayata gate Bodhi Sohaya Gate Paragate Parasamgate Bodhi Soha. One more time, un'altra volta. Masam cheme shera paru chi make miga namke ngowoni sosorari tu son gyawe yumla chatselo. The perfection of wisdom that is beyond words and thoughts, space like nature that has gone beyond and that has no beginning and end. Mother that experience it by the self-cognizing wisdom, to the Mother of all Buddhas of the 3 times I prostrate. La perfezione della saggezza che è al di là della parola e dei pensieri, che ha la natura come lo spazio senza inizio e fine. Madre che sperimenta con la saggezza autoconoscente, alla madre di tutti i Buddha dei 3 tempi io mi prostro. Gyagar ketu bhagavati prajna paramita hridaya pöketu chumden dema sheragi parotu chimbe nimpo Dema sheragi parotu chimbala chatselo Dige dagi teba tuchi na chumden de gyabo kap Chago pumbo rila gelongi gendun chimbo dan Chancho sembe gendun chimbo dan tab chitu shute Te tse chumden de samu nawa she chao Chogi namdrangi tinge zinla nyombra shu so Yan te tse janchu semba semba chembo Paba chenre si wanchu kyang Shera ki paro tu chimba samu choba nila nambra tashi Pumbo ngabo teta kaya ranshingi tomba nambra tao Tene sange gi tu tsedan demba sharipu Chancho semba semba chembo paba cheresi Wancho la dike che meso Rigi pumo kang la sheragi Paro tu chimba samo cheba debrate Chitra labra cha Dike che me badang Chancho semba chembo paba cheresi Wancho gi tsedan demba sharatati pula dike che meso Sharipu rigi pumo kang la sheragi Paro tu jimba samu cheba debate Ditra nambra tawra chate pumbo ngabo deda kyang Ranshingi tomba nambra yandabra jesu tao So tomba ni so Sule kyan tomba ni shemayin Tomba ni le kyan so shemayin Teshin tu tsorwa dan Duche dan
Nambra Sheba Nam Tompa O Sharipu Teta Wena Che Tamche Tomba Nite Tseni Meba Makeb Magakpa Tima Meba Tima Dan Chalwa Tiwa Meb Kangwa Meba O Sharipu Teta Wena Tomba Nila Su Me Tsorwa Me Dushe me, duce na me, nambra sheba me, mik me, nawa me, na me, che me, lu me, yi me, su me, dra me, tri me, ro me, rekcha me, cho me, to, migi ka me ba ne, yigi ka me, Yige nambra shebe kamge pardo yame to marikpa seba meba ne gashe me gashe sebe pardo yame to teshin tu dunge wadan kunchu wadan gokpa dan la me yeshe me toba me ma toba yame to Sharipu Teta Wena Chanchu Semba Namla Toba Mebe Chir Sheragi Parotu Jimba Samo Dila Tenchi Nete Semla Driba Mechin Trapa Mete Chinchi Lone Shindu Den Nyange Ledebe Tarchinto Tu suntu ngombra shube sangye tamche kyan sheragi paru tu jimbala tene lana mepa yandabra zope chanchu tu ngombra zobra sangye so te tawe na sheragi paru tu jimbe nga rikpa nga lana mepe nga Minyam pada nyampra chebe nga dunga tamche rabtu shivra chebe nga mitsum pena dembra shebra chate sheravgi paru tu jimbe nga mepa taya ta gate gate para sam gate bodhi svoha Sharipu Chanchu Semba Chimbo Namgi Tetra Sheraki Parotu Jimba Samola Labra Chao Tene Chumden de Tinge Zing Tele Shende Chanchu Semba Chim Papa Cherezi Wanchu La Lexo She Chawa Chine Lexo rigi pu te shin no te shin te chitra kyogi temba te shin tu sheragi paro tu chimba samola chebra chate te shin sheba namgya jesu yirango Chomden dege cheka tsene tsedan denba shara tati puda chanchu semba chembo paba cherezi wanchu dan tam chedan denbe kor tedadan lada midan lama yidan trisan chebe chikden irante Chomden dege sumba langum paratu Taya ta gate para samgate bodhi svoha Taya ta gate para samgate bodhi svoha Taya ta gate para prasamgate bodhi svoha. The heart of far-reaching discriminating awareness, the vanquishing lady surpassing all. These words have I heard. At one time, the vanquishing master surpassing all was dwelling at the Vulture Peak mountain by the royal city of Rajgiha, together with the great assembly of the monastic Sangha and the great assembly of a Bodhisattva Sangha. At the time, the vanquishing master surpassing all was totally absorbed in the absorbed concentration that expresses the multiplicity of phenomena known as the appearance of the profound. Also at that time, the Bodhisattva, great-minded Mahasattva, the Arya Avalokitesvara, the powerful Lord, beholding all around, conducting his behavior in profound and far-reaching discriminating awareness, was beholding all around, in detail like this. He was beholding all around in detail the 5 aggregate factors of his experience and even those of the void of self-establishing nature. Then, to the mind of the Buddha, the Venerable Shariputra addressed these words to the Bodhisattva, great-minded Mahasattva, the Arya Avalokitesvara. How does any spiritual child with the Buddha family traits need to train, who wishes to conduct his or her behavior in the profound and far-reaching discriminating awareness? Addressed like that, the Bodhisattva, great-minded Mahasattva, the Arya Avalokitesvara, addressed these words to the venerable son of Shravadati. O Shariputra, any spiritual son with the family traits of spiritual daughters with the family traits, who wishes to conduct his or her behavior in profound and far-reaching discriminating awareness, needs to behold all around in detail like this. He or she needs to keep in view fully and in detail the 5 aggregate factors of his or her experience, and those as devoid of self-establishing nature. Form, voidness, voidness, form. Form not separate from voidness, voidness not separated from form. Similarly, feeling, distinguishing, affecting variables, types of consciousness, voidness. It is like that, Shariputra, with all phenomena, voidness. No defining characteristics, no arising, no stopping, no being stained, no being parted from stain, no being deficient, no being addition. Because it's like that, Shariputra, in voidness, no form, no feeling, no distinction, no affecting variables, no kind of consciousness, no eye, no ear, no nose, no tongue, no body, no mind, no sight, no sound, no smell, no taste, no physical sensation, no phenomena, no cognitive source that's an I, up to no cognitive source that's a mind, no cognitive source that's mental consciousness. No unawareness, no elimination of unawareness, up to no aging and death, no elimination of aging and death. Likewise, no suffering, cause, stopping, and pathway mind. No deep awareness, no attainment, no non-attainment. Because it's like that, Shariputra, true, there is no being attainment of bodhisattvas, he or she lives relying on far-reaching discriminating awareness with no mental obscuration. There is no fear, gone beyond what is reverse, thus nirvana release, complete to the end. In fact, it's by relying on far-reaching discriminating awareness that all Buddhas arrayed throughout the 3 times are full manifest Buddhas, in peerless and perfect full Buddhahood. Because it's like that, far-reaching discriminating awareness is the great mind-protecting mantra, the mind-protecting mantra of great knowledge, the mind-protecting mantra that's earned surpassed, the mind-protecting mantra equal to the unequaled, the mind-protecting mantra completely stilling all suffering. Because of its being not deceitful, it is to be known as truth. in far-reaching discriminating awareness. The mind-protecting mantra has been proclaimed. Tayata gate gate paragate parasamgate bodhi swaha. The actual nature gone, gone, gone beyond, gone far beyond, purified state, so be it. O Shariputra, a bodhisattva, great-minded Mahasattva, needs to train like that, in profound and far-reaching discriminating awareness. Then the vanquishing master, surpassing all, arising from that absorbed concentration, gave his endorsement, excellent, to the bodhisattva, great-minded Mahasattva, Arya Avalokitesvara. Excellent, excellent, my spiritual son, with the family treats. It is just like that. It is just that he or she needs to conduct his or her behavior in profound and far-reaching discriminating awareness. It is exactly as seen, as has been shown by you to the bodhisattvas, to arhats and Buddhas to rejoice. When the vanquishing master, surpassing all, had pronounced these words, the venerable son of Shravadati, the bodhisattva, great-minded Mahasattva, the Arya Avalokitesvara, and the pair of assemblies of those endowed with all, as well as the world, gods, human, anti-gods, and Gandharva heavenly musicians, rejoicing, sang praises of what had been declared by the vanquishing master, surpassing all. Tayata gate gate paragate parasamgate bodhisvoha tayata gate gate paragate parasamgate bodhisvoha. So, as we will go through the Heart Sutra, we will just read the sutra, giving some explanations in between without going in deep details, okay? Otherwise, we need to divide this sutra into many chapters and subjects, and there is the whole way of explaining it in very many details. So we are not going to do that. I'm just going to read the sutra and give some explanation as we go through the reading. So, the English version has the first part of translation, which is better. It says, the heart of far-reaching discriminating awareness in the vanquishing lady surpassing all. So this is the title of the text, okay? The title of the text, the long title, is the heart of the essence of the far-reaching discriminating awareness, which is the wisdom that goes beyond, the wisdom that goes beyond suffering, the wisdom that goes beyond our normal, common way of seeing things. It's also called the vanquishing. What does vanquishing exactly means in English? Like destroying? Huh? Destroying. So the vanquishing lady surpassing all. Vanquishing mean here is a way that normally is said to Buddha. Vanquishing in a sense that destroys all illusions, that destroy all ignorance. Okay? So the vanquishing lady surpassing all, which is winning over. Okay? So winning over, the vanquishing, the one that wins over ignorance, that goes beyond, that is winning completely over ignorance, destroying and winning over ignorance. So, the vanquishing lady surpassing all, it means actually wisdom. It's a name given to the perfection of wisdom. Okay? The actual sutra starts with the words, in the Tibetan we have another part in between actually, which is not in the translation, which is Cheragiparu tu Jimpala Chatselo. I prostrate to the perfection of wisdom, which these words were added by the Tibetan translator. So the Tibetan translators, they always start the texts, first giving the name of the text in Sanskrit and in Tibetan. That's why we say Gyagar Ketu in Sanskrit, Bhagavati Prajna Paramita Hridaya. That's the name. Then Pöketu in Tibetan language, Chumden de Masheragi Parotu Jimpe Nyingpo. Shiragiparu tu chimbala chalse lo. I prostrate to the great, I prostrate to the heart, I prostrate to the heart of the far-reaching discriminating awareness. Shiragiparu tu chimbala chalse lo. I prostrate to the far-reaching discriminating awareness. This was added by the translator. The actual sutra starts with these words have I heard. Okay? This is the actual beginning of the actual sutra, we would say. The beginning is the title of the sutra, and then there is one prostration, one praise that is done by the translator always. So the actual sutra starts with, these words have I heard. All the sutras of Buddha starts like this. Dike daki tepa tu chikna. At one time, these words have I heard. Okay? So, dike daki tepa tu chikna. It means, first of all, I was there. So I have heard, I'm them telling I have heard. It means also this is not words that were written by Buddha. Actually, Buddha didn't write anything. Okay? We could go on and on to discuss about that, but Buddha didn't write anything. What we have today of the teachings of Buddha are the transcriptions of the teachings that Buddha gave, written by his direct disciples. So after Buddha's death, his disciples gathered, and only the disciples that have reached one level of realization through which, by developing wisdom, it's possible to access every memory of every word that we have heard up to now. Once reaching this, then only these people were allowed to cite and to tell the stories of the sutras, what they have heard. Like if we think right now, because we don't remember something, does this mean that we do not have that information in our mind somewhere? No. It's possible for us to forget about something and later to remember it again, right? Oh, I cannot remember what you have said. And after some time, suddenly we remember it. Which means that when we don't remember something, it's not because it's not in our mind, it's because we cannot access it. So in the teachings, it's said that everything that we listen remains in our mind. It's just a matter of being able to access it or not. So when reaching a certain level of realization of wisdom, it's possible to access every word that we have ever listened in this and in our previous lives. Okay? So, only the disciples that have reached this level of realization were actually writing the sutras. So they gathered all together, they made a throne out of the cloth of the Buddha, of the monks. And then each monk sat on this throne of the disciples of Buddha, and they were starting. These words have I heard at one time. So I was there and I heard these words. This happened one time. It didn't happen many times. Buddha said this thing once, so it's very precious. Otherwise it will say, these words I have heard many times. No, it's at only one time. Buddha didn't say this many times. It was said only once, and it's very precious, it's very rare. And then, first thing, what he's going to do is going to tell in which context these words were said. So these words have I heard at one time. The vanquishing master, surpassing all, Buddha Shakyamuni, was dwelling at the Vulture Peak Mountains by the royal city of Rajgriha. So he was dwelling in a mountain, which is called the Vulture's Peak, near Bodh Gaya, which was in the city of Rajgriha, together with a great assembly of monastic Sangha and a great assembly of Bodhisattva Sangha. There are two ways of explaining this. One way is saying there was a great assembly of monastic Sangha and lay Sangha also. But the most common way of explanation is that when it says the great assembly of monastic Sangha, it refers to the disciples of Buddha that were mostly practicing the Dharma in order to get out of suffering for themselves, which is called the Hinayana disciples. While the Bodhisattva are those that wish to reach enlightenment for the benefit of all sentient beings, so-called Bodhisattvas, following the Mahayana path. Okay? Actually, every passage of the sutra, we take the commentaries, we can go on and on with very detailed and explanations and so on. Now we're just going to go more superficially through it, okay? So we imagine, when I recite the sutra, I like to imagine what is happening, because it's actually the sutra is telling us a story, somehow. It's telling us something that have happened. So there is Buddha Shakyamuni, Around him, there are many disciples. We imagine all the disciples together. They were just sitting around together. Buddha was there, and the disciples, they were sitting around him. Without any great formalities, they were sitting in the mountains, under the trees, in a very nice way, really. All the disciples sitting together. And not only here, what is not written specifically in the end of the sutra is talking about that. Not only were present at that moment all the disciples, but whenever Buddha gave a teaching, there were always present many gods and demigods and all many forms of life that don't have a physical body that would come to listen to Buddha also. That's why up to today, whenever we give a Dharma teaching, the one giving the teaching, we need to put the intention, the attitude that we say, okay, here I share these teachings of Dharma to those that are present, but not only that, but also to those that are not physically as human beings present here. And these days, nowadays, through technology, also those that are not physically present here. But also to all those that don't have a physical body, like gods and semi-gods and all other forms of life, who also like to listen to the teachings and come to receive it. Okay? Even when Buddha gave the first teachings of the Four Noble Truths, there were only 5 disciples as human beings, but in the description there were hundreds of thousands of gods and semi-gods listening to him also, which are also forms of life, which they also need the teachings, they also need the Dharma, so they also come to listen. So imagine that at that time Buddha was there with many disciples, but not only that, there were also a gathering of all many other forms of gods and semi-gods that were together, they're listening to the teachings together. So, at the time, Buddha Shakyamuni was absorbed in a concentration. At the time, the vanquishing master, surpassing all, was totally absorbed in the absorbed concentration that expresses the multiplicity of phenomena known as the appearance of the profound. Actually, a Buddha is constantly in and absorbed in meditative concentration, in samadhi. There is no anymore the difference between, let's say, a moment awakened to talk and interact and a moment of meditative absorption. But Buddha, he was manifesting that he was meditating. Okay? So at the time, there were all the disciples together and Buddha was there sitting, meditating. And he was meditating on the correct view of reality, on the ultimate nature of all phenomena. Okay? So there was Buddha meditating. Around him were many of all the disciples. Especially, there were 2 disciples, which was Shariputra and Avalokitesvara. And this sutra was not taught by Buddha verbally. Was taught by Buddha through his blessings. There are different ways of sutras. There is one way of sutra, which is the most common one, in which Buddha said the words by himself. And there is other sutras through the blessing of Buddha. Shariputra was there, and through the blessings of Buddha, through the power of Buddha, he made a question to Avalokitesvara. So he was inspired deeply by the blessings of Buddha, and it was not by Buddha there blessing him, he would never do that question. So that's why we say, the text itself says, to the might of the Buddha. Through the blessings, through the might of the Buddha, Avalokitesvara makes a question. And Chenrezig was also blessed by Buddha Shakyamuni by the way how he answered. So someone could say, oh, this sutra is not a real sutra. We do debating about these things. Oh, this sutra is not a real sutra of Buddha. It's a sutra of Avalokitesvara and Shariputra, because they are the ones actually talking here. Because it's a discussion between them too. But actually it's said to be a sutra of Buddha because it's the meaning of the teachings of Buddha, which Buddha expressed through Shariputra and Avalokitesvara by blessing their mind. Okay? So in this moment, Buddha is there sitting in meditation. And Avalokitesvara is present also there, and he is reflecting. He's not in deep meditation, but he's reflecting upon the lack of inherent existence of all phenomena, especially of the 5 aggregates. So as it says here, also at the time, the Bodhisattva, great-minded Mahasattva, the Arya Avalokitesvara, the powerful Lord, beholding all around, conducting his behavior in profound and far-reaching discriminating awareness, was beholding all around in detail like this. He was beholding all around in detail the 5 aggregate factors of his experience, and even those as devoid of self-establishing nature. In other words, Avalokitesvara was reflecting upon the lack of inherent existence. How do phenomena exist? What's the ultimate nature of phenomena, especially his own 5 aggregates, which means his body and his mind? He was reflecting upon it and saying, oh, it lacks inherent existence. He was actually reflecting upon the correct view of reality, okay? At the time, then, through the mind of the Buddha, through the blessings of Buddha Shakyamuni, the Venerable Shariputra addressed these words to Bodhisattva, great-minded Mahasattva, Arya Avalokitesvara. So at that time, through the blessings of the Buddha, Shariputra made these questions addressed Avalokitesvara, saying these words. How does any spiritual child with the Buddha family, traits, needs to train, who wishes to conduct his or her behavior in profound and far-reaching discriminating awareness? So he asks Avalokitesvara, how does any spiritual child with the family traits, which means, how does anyone, any practitioner that wishes to reach enlightenment, this is what it means by as a spiritual child because it's still in the beginning of the path. How does anyone that is in the beginning of the path that wishes to reach enlightenment, he or she, what do they need to do in order to reach enlightenment? How should they practice the wisdom that takes them beyond suffering? What's the correct way of practicing the wisdom? What's the correct way of realizing the wisdom in order to reach enlightenment? Who wishes to conduct his or her behavior in profound and far-reaching discriminating awareness, how should they train in it? How should they do? In other words, what Avalokitesvara is asking is, anyone that is a practitioner that wishes to reach enlightenment, how should they follow the path to enlightenment through the perfection of wisdom? So this is the question that Shariputra is putting, okay? So the sutra and the answer that Avalokitesvara gives is actually the explanation of the path to enlightenment, which we call the 5 paths of accumulation, preparation, seeing, meditation, and no more learning. So we have the path of accumulation, the path of preparation, the path of seeing, the path of meditation, and the path of no more learning. Avalokitesvara explains how a practitioner should realize the perfection of wisdom, should make their own wisdom perfect, should perfect their wisdom. Avalokitesvara is showing how a practitioner should perfect their wisdom through the path of accumulation, preparation, seeing, meditation, and no more learning. So this is what is actually being taught inside the Heart Sutra. Okay? So, just not to leave us with the open question, we just give the beginning of the answer. After Shariputra have asked, how does any spiritual child with the Buddha family traits need to train, who wishes to conduct his or her behavior in the profound and far-reaching discriminating awareness? And here, Avalokitesvara starts answering. And here Avalokitesvara will answer according to the 5 paths to enlightenment. And he says, addressed like that, the Bodhisattva great-minded Mahasattva, the Arya Avalokitesvara, addressed these words to the venerable son of Shradvati. Addressed these words to the venerable son of Shradvati. O Shariputra, any spiritual son with the family traits, or spiritual daughter with the family traits, who wishes to conduct his or her behavior in profound and far-reaching discriminating awareness, needs to behold all around in detail like this. Needs to reflect, needs to understand and meditate, needs to get familiarized, needs to train himself in this way. This part of the text is very important because if we do not understand well this first part, then the whole rest becomes impossible to understand, okay? If we get the meaning of this first part, then the rest will be much easier to understand. He or she needs to keep in view, fully and in detail, the 5 aggregate factors of his or her experience and those as devoid of self-establishing nature. What does self-establishing nature mean? This is a key word in the whole text, okay? It means that he or she needs to keep in view, fully and in detail, that the 5 aggregates lack self-establishing nature, lack intrinsic, inherent existence, which means nothing exists independently of its own parts, and nothing exists independently of the attribution of the name. Let's just try to explain it very briefly, okay? So, let's take, for instance, this booklet. We have this booklet where the Perfection of Wisdom Sutra is written. It's a booklet. Why it's a booklet? What makes this object become a booklet? It has its parts. What are the parts that compose the booklet? Cover, pages, paper, ink, words written, okay, paragraphs, and so on. So all this together composes the booklet, right? But what does make all this together to be a booklet? Having all this together, do I necessarily have a booklet? Or can I have just a bunch of pages? I can have many pages together. A booklet is actually an object that has specific characteristics and functions. The characteristics of a booklet is that it must have a cover and pages. There must be something written in it that makes some sense, at least. Or we can have a senseless booklet also, maybe, but normally we expect that it has some sense. And then, at the same time, also it has a function that to keep the meaning through the words and to enable that we are able to read it. Okay? So a booklet has characteristics and have functions. What we do is that we attribute such characteristics and functions to the parts that are together here. So the booklet is nothing more, nothing less than the attribution of functions and characteristics to a unity of parts. That's what a booklet is. Okay? Is the attribution of characteristics and functions, which we could say the attribution of a name. When we say booklet, it comes already with characteristics and functions. So it's the attribution of a name, of characteristics and function, is the same thing. The booklet is nothing more, nothing less than the attribution of characteristics and functions, the attribution of a name, based on a unity of parts. Okay. Then I take, for instance, the cover. What is a cover? The cover is nothing more, nothing less than the attribution of a name, cover, which means characteristics and functions, based on a unity of parts, which I have the paper, the ink, the drawing, the upper part, the lower part. We put all this together and we give a name, cover. Otherwise, it would be a piece of paper or whatever else. Then I take, for instance, the central drawing of the mandala. What is the mandala that I have the drawing of the mandala? It's nothing more, nothing less than the attribution of characteristics and functions of a name, mandala, based on its parts, on a unity of parts. Okay? What am I? Lama Michel. Or we may reflect, who am I? What am I? Very difficult. I am nothing more, nothing less than an attribution of characteristics and functions based on a unity of parts. What are the parts? Body and mind, the 5 aggregates. Okay? So nothing exists independently of the attribution of the name, based on the parts. So, if anything existed independently of its parts, and independently, most of all, of the attribution of the name, this phenomena would be an inherently existing phenomena, self-existing phenomenon. It will exist by its own characteristics, by its own self, autonomously. Okay? So, when we say here that, in the text it says, he or she needs to keep in view fully and in detail the 5 aggregate factors, which means body and mind, of his or her experience and those as devoid of self-establishing nature, as lacking inherent existence, as being free from self-existence, inherent existence, which means needs to remember that the 5 aggregates himself lack inherent existence, which means do not exist independently of the attribution of the name based on the parts. Okay? So this is the very important meaning, because afterwards when it's going to say here, there is no eye, no ear, no tongue, no nose, and so on, it means there is nothing that exists inherently, nothing that exists independently of the attribution of the name based on the parts. This is as we go afterwards. So this part of the text, it's very, very important. And just this part, it continues, and after lunch we will give the explanations, which says, form, voidness, voidness, form. Form not separate from voidness, voidness not separate from form. Similarly, feeling, distinguishing, affecting variables, types of consciousness, voidness. Later we will see the meaning of this part, okay? Here when it says similarly, is because if we would make the version of the text a little bit longer, like we have in the 8,000 verses and so on, it would be form, voidness, voidness, form. Form not separate from voidness, voidness not separate from form. Sensation, voidness, voidness, sensation. Sensation not separate from voidness, voidness not separate from sensation. Discrimination here is called distinguishing, voidness, voidness, distinguishing. Distinguish not separate from voidness, voidness not separate from distinguishing. It will go like this for the 5 aggregates, okay? That's why it said similarly, okay? But we will see the meaning of this part after lunch. Just keep in mind very clearly, the most important part is everything lacks inherent existence. This is the main focus. Then from that, we'll go to the whole rest of the explanation, okay?
Jetsun lame kutse raptenchi namkar chinle chochur gepa dang losan tempe drume sasumgi drove munsel tatu ne gyurchi nimo dele tsendele nime kuyan delekshin Nintsen takto delekpe, koncho sumge jingi lon, koncho sumge ngodrup tsol, koncho sumge trashisho. At dawn or dusk, at night or midday, may the three jewels grant us their blessings. May they help us to achieve all realizations and sprinkle the path of our lives with various signs of auspiciousness. Oma hun temba lame sangye rinpoche, kyoba lame tamcho rinpoche, dremba lame gendu rinpoche, kyamne kuncho sumla cho pa, locho sambo pa gyu traship, tuche tembe trinle yarangoda, pege drolo zambe zebrache, panden lame shela cho pa bu. Masam jome shera parojing, make miga namke ngowoni, so sorang riyeshe choyo ma, tu sungyawe yumla cho pa bul.